In the beginning, the universe was an empty chaos until the universal consciousness decided to divide itself and create life. Its first being was Ra Adam, the sun god and creator of all, who gave rise to two entities, Horakthi and Zork. While Horakthi created light, Zork brought forth darkness. Horakthi then split into three divine dragons: Obelisk, the Tormentor, Lord of Wings, Earth, and Fire; Slifer, the Sky Dragon, Lord of the Heavens and Thunder; the Winged Dragon of Ra, Lord of Spirits and Mysticism. The three gave birth to other dragons, populating the earth. Among them, two opposites stood out: Blue Eyes White Dragon, a symbol of light and provision; Red Eyes Black Dragon, a manifestation of hunger, misery, and darkness. This duality created an internal balance between them. Among the creatures of the world, one stood out: a humanoid race capable of channeling magic and manipulating natural forces. The first mage. Over time, they evolved into human, and in doing so, they sealed the monsters of the spirit world. However, one particular mage became so powerful that he managed to seal 1,000 dragons in a single night, something considered a threat by the dragon gods. As punishment, he was imprisoned in cursed chains and sealed at the center of a pentagram, becoming a forbidden entity. His name, Exodia. Thus, the secret of the world's beginning was lost to time, and spiritual creatures became inaccessible, unless they were summoned through magic. Millennia later, 7,000 years before the main story, a forbidden ritual emerged, the summoning of souls, which brought a curse upon Egypt. The Egyptian people had their souls divided into two parts: Ba, the essence and power that each human develops; Ka, an inner creature summoned from the spirit world, feeding off the emotions of its host. Thus, the Egyptians began developing creatures within their souls, attempting to control and use them as weapons. But this practice led to the creation of mutants, people who had merged so completely with their inner monsters that they could no longer be separated unless both were destroyed. The greatest protector of this era was Hassan, while absolute evil manifested in Zork, the Dark Master, who thrived on pure hatred. Around 3,000 years ago, Egypt was constantly attacked by sorcerers who followed Zork, forcing the kingdom to seek an even greater power for defense. This led to the creation of an ancient magical book that taught how to forge the Millennium items. At the time, Egypt was ruled by Pharaoh Akhenaten, and foreign nations sought to obtain this knowledge to seal the most powerful weapon on earth. Fearing that this power would fall into the wrong hands, Egypt entered into war, for if they lost, the world could be condemned to eternal conflict. Facing Egypt's imminent destruction, the pharaoh's twin brother, Akhenaten, proposed an extreme solution: to use the power of the Millennium items to win the war. Left with no alternatives, Pharaoh Akhenaten agreed, unaware of the terrible price he would have to pay. The first decision was to abandon his wife and children, including his nephew Setu, leaving them to their fate. Soon, Egyptian troops invaded villages, massacring men, women, and children. Their souls were imprisoned with enormous stone slabs, serving as the raw material for the creation of the Millennium items. The result of this dark ritual was 7 powerful artifacts. Millennium Puzzle, a puzzle capable of granting luck, fulfilling wishes, and controlling darkness. Whoever solves it gains unimaginable power. Millennium Eye allows its user to read minds, see through other people's eyes, and seal defeated souls in duels. Millennium Ring acts as a compass to locate other relics but corrupts its bearer by consuming their vitality. It contains a fragment of Zork's power, making it extremely dangerous. Millennium Scales can summon Ma'at, the goddess of truth, to judge hearts. It can steal the soul of those deemed guilty as punishment. Millennium Key grants the ability to explore the depths of the soul, alters memory, and reveal an individual's inner monsters. Millennium Rod enables the bearer to control human and monster minds, as well as communicate telepathically. Millennium Necklace grants vision of the future and the ability to interact with the past. 7 nobles of the royal lineage were chosen as keepers. However, what no one foresaw was that by creating these artifacts, they had also released a fragment of Zork's immense power, an ominous entity that feeds on darkness. In the midst of the ritual, a boy named Bakura witnessed the massacre of his people. Seeing his family and friends turned into mystical items, his heart, consumed by hatred, drew the attention of Zork, who took possession of the child, giving rise to a vengeful and ruthless spirit. Meanwhile, Seto, son of Akhenaten, grew up as a fugitive, living among slaves, dressed in rags, and being captured multiple times. He learned to survive in a cruel world, but destiny had something grand in store for him. One night, Seto spotted a slave caravan. Among the prisoners, he saw a girl his age with white hair and blue eyes. emanating a mysterious power that only he could sense. Overcome by an uncontrollable instinct, he stormed the caravan and freed the girl, taking her away on his horse. Her name was Kisara, and though unaware of her origins, she possessed an immense power within her. In an act of sacrifice, Seto gave up his only horse so that Kisara could escape, allowing her to flee while he was captured in her place. Before leaving, Kisara swore that one day she would repay this debt by protecting him for all eternity. Later, Seto returned to his village, only to find it engulfed in flames, devastated by the same slave traders who had attacked Kisara. At the peak of his despair, his hatred and sorrow awakened a great power, bringing forth Kisara's promise. From the skies, a being with majestic wings and gleaming scales. With a deafening roar, the legendary blue-eyes white dragon appeared, annihilating the bandits with his blinding burst of light, leaving Seto face to face with a divine power. At that moment, he realized Kisara and the blue-eyes white dragons were spiritually connected, and this bond would transcend generations. 7 years passed, and the Guardians received the Millennium items, gaining the abilities to summon mystical creatures and ancient warriors. Among those summoned was Exodia, a being of colossal power, comparable to the gods themselves. The pharaohs discovered that only someone with an incredible strong spirit could summon Exodia. If used for evil, it could bring about absolute chaos. To prevent it from falling into the wrong hands, Exodia was sealed and divided into 5 parts, becoming Exodia the Forbidden one of the most dangerous beings to ever exist. Thus, Egypt had found its salvation, but at an irreversible cost. As more and more people were brought before the Millennium items power, they were exorcised. With the monsters removed from their original bodies, they were imprisoned and later used, greatly increasing the number of creatures sealed within stone tablets. Over time, the practice of extracting souls and sealing them in stone statues led to the creation of a game where these monsters would duel. Meanwhile, Bakura developed the monster called Diamond, and to complete his revenge, he decided to gather all the Millennium items. After enduring so many hardships and being saved by Kisara's dragon, Seto decided to become a priest. Because of this, he was granted one of the Millennium items, becoming the wielder of the Millennium Rod. Seto devised a plan to defeat Bakura, which required gathering the most powerful creatures in existence. He began searching for monsters within people. During his quest, Seto found Kisara again, gravely injured. He intervened, saving the girl from the mob. As he looked at her, he recognized her and rescued her once more, taking her with him. Another wielder of the Millennium Key read her mind and sensed the powerful aura of the dragon. Then, Seto's father, Akhenaten, who had abandoned him years before, met his son. As the wielder of the Millennium Eye, Akhenaten decided to seal the Blue Eyes White Dragon within a stone tablet, believing that with such power, he could make Seto the new pharaoh. However, Kisara was different. She and the dragon were a single being, inseparable. The dragon's power manifested when Kisara was consumed by rage and hatred, making it impossible to separate them. Akhenaten saw Adam being crowned as pharaoh, and believed his own son was more worthy of the throne, but the Blue Eyes White Dragon's soul was bound to Seto. Upon discovering his father's plan, Seto interfered to save Kisara. Using the Millennium Rod, he resisted the power of his father's Millennium Eye, which was trying to force him to fight Pharaoh Adam and seize the throne. While Kisara was imprisoned in the cell, she sensed Seto needed her help and attempted to escape. However, in doing so, she accidentally traveled through time, meeting Seto Kaiba, his reincarnation in the future. In the past, Bakura was gathering the Millennium items to summon Zork's power. He challenged Pharaoh Adam to another battle. Before Adam could claim victory over Bakura, Akhenaten summoned Zork. In exchange, he requested that his son, Seto, be crowned as the new pharaoh. However, Akhenaten was possessed by Zork and attacked Seto. With Zork now fully manifested, Akhenaten stole the Blue Eyes White Dragon's power, imprisoning it with a stone tablet. In her human form, Kisara used her body to protect Seto, receiving a fatal strike to the heart. She collapsed, losing her human life. Without a human vessel to return to, the dragon was put into the stone tablet, and Kisara's spirit was eternally sealed within it. In the future, priests used their power to separate them, creating a tablet dedicated solely to Kisara. Akhenaten had been motivated by fear. He doubted his timid nephew's ability to rule Egypt. After seeing his son rise from poverty and become a priest on his own, he decided to overthrow him. One day, Akhenaten invoked the gods and pleaded for forgiveness for the countless lives he had taken. He asked them to direct all their wrath upon him instead, sparing his son so he could one day become pharaoh. As a result, Adam watched as a god consumed his father, an event that changed him forever. This moment shaped him into the most powerful pharaoh of all time. Seto harbored great envy toward his cousin and challenged Adam into a fierce duel. Despite possessing the Blue Eyes White Dragon and immense power, Adam's strategies made him invincible. They battled until Adam finally won Seto's loyalty. Sometime later, Hassan, the protector of all pharaohs, appeared before Adam with a dire warning. Zork was regaining strength and would soon return to destroy Egypt. One day, Bakura attacked Adam, and they dueled, ending in a stalemate before Bakura fled. Marik, determined to defeat him, pursued him, believing the Millennium Ring would give him an advantage. However, Bakura emerged victorious and transformed Marik into a summoning creature. He was sealed and became Dark Magician. Bakura then claimed possession of the Millennium Ring, yet Marik remained loyal, even in his monstrous form. Akhenaten stole Seto's body and attempted to wield the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but the dragon only obeyed Seto and vanished. This severed Akhenaten's connection with Zork, yet the demon was now fully unleashed and unstoppable. As a last resort, they summoned the Forbidden One, Exodia. After a long battle, even Exodia was ultimately defeated. Realizing the only way to stop Zork, Adam renounced his title as pharaoh and passed it on to his cousin, Seto. He then gathered all the Millennium items and used them to seal Zork. However, this act cost Adam his life. Adam ruled for only a few days before his death. In his memory, Seto ordered the carving of numerous stone tablets detailing his cousin's history, ensuring he would never be forgotten. But Zork's story was forbidden and sealed away, so that no one could ever again control such a malevolent power. Seto believed that the pharaoh Adam would one day return. Thus, he engraved the pharaoh's memory onto the back of certain individuals, ensuring that when the time came, Adam would be reborn at full power. In the future, ancient Egypt is nothing more than a distant memory, and the world has changed as modernity has arrived. In 1868, an organization established to research the ancient history of Egypt, aiming to study and understand everything about this ancient civilization. Beyond research, this organization was responsible for preventing thieves from stealing the artifacts found in that land. Although the site had been targeted by many thieves over the years, efforts were made to protect it so that nothing could be taken. 32 years later, in the 90s, after numerous excavations and studies, the Millennium Puzzle was discovered. The archaeologists who found the relic mysteriously died, as did all the others who attempted to approach the box that held it. The pharaoh spirit remained in its home, and while researchers discovered the site, they chose to ignore it for preservation. However, Solomon and his friends conducted excavations in Egypt, where they uncovered a catacomb containing memories of ancient duels. They soon found themselves trapped in a tomb and, to pass the time, started playing an ancient Egyptian game. As a gift, Arthur gave Solomon the Blue Eyes White Dragon card. In another adventure, Solomon was trapped and was saved by the spirit of Pharaoh Adam. The pharaoh was ready to return, but it took him 30 years to do so. Reincarnating as Solomon's grandson, Yugi. To fully restore Adam, all the Millennium items needed to be gathered in one place and the Millennium Puzzle assembled. For 20 years, Solomon failed to do so, as it was too complex. He decided to open a game shop instead. When he was around 70 years old, his grandson, Yugi, the reincarnation of Adam, finally encountered the Millennium Puzzle. At 15 years old, Yugi bore an uncanny resemblance to Adam. However, he only managed to solve the puzzle after 8 years of attempts. From the age of 7 to 15, he fully dedicated to solving the ancient puzzle, which had been created at the cost of many human lives 3,000 years ago, and contained the soul of an ancient pharaoh. Now, it was in Yugi's possession, and with the reincarnation of the pharaoh, figures from the past also began to emerge. Shifting focus for a moment, it's important to mention Pegasus, a young heir of a multi-billionaire family. He fell in love with a woman named Cecilia, and they soon married. However, she quickly fell ill and died. This tragedy made him obsessed with finding a way to bring his beloved back to life. Maximilian Pegasus traveled to Egypt, the ancient land of stone tablet battles. There, he met Shadi, who gave him the Millennium Eye, a relic that grants its wielder many powers but could also drive them to madness. This eye held knowledge of Egyptian relics and the long-forgotten monster battles. After receiving this gift, Pegasus decided to create a card game that retained a characteristic of the ancient game. However, instead of designing new monsters, he copied the creatures from the ancient Egyptian tablets. Thus, this game spread across the world. Along with the pharaoh's reincarnation, another soul returned, Settled, who was reborn into a wealthy family. However, it was not the Kaiba family that would later give him his famous surname. Kaiba Corp, a global technology and investment corporation, saw potential in Maximilian Pegasus' dual monster game and began developing technology for it. The company created holographic platforms, scoring systems, and innovations that made the game even more popular. Unlike ancient Egypt, where battles took place with stone tablets and physical monsters, modern duels were made possible through hologram, as most humans lacked the power to summon monsters themselves. Upon seeing the game, Seto felt a deep nostalgia, as if he had already lived through it before. His connections to the Blue Eyes White Dragons resurfaced in the present era. Pegasus even created a card of his beloved Cecilia. As the last romantic, he became obsessed with the card, tried to bring her back to life through it. When he designed the Egyptian god cards, he felt an overwhelming fear. perhaps a sign that these deities had used again to revive the monster battles. Those guards became a source of terror and spirit for Pegasus. Not knowing what to do, he took them to Egypt and hid them away. However, over time they were discovered by Marik Ishtar. He was a descendant of the tomb guardians designated by Pharaoh Sero. For over 3,000 years, generation after generation, they upheld their sacred duty. They bore tattoos that told the story of Pharaoh Adam. Born and raised within the temples, Marik endured a difficult upbringing under an extremely strict father. As he grew older, he became violent and eventually put an end to his father's life. The irony was that for 3,000 years, each generation had faithfully followed their tradition, passing down their tattoos and customs. This rigid devotion became a problem. When the pharaoh was finally set to return, the one responsible for guarding the secrets, Marik, chose to rebel. Unlike his ancestors, who eagerly awaited the pharaoh's return, Marik resented him. When Adam finally returned, one of the past guardians were there to welcome him. Only Marik's hatred. Consumed by his rage, Marik Ishtar decided to become the next pharaoh of the modern era on his own terms. To achieve this, he needed to gather all the 7 millennium items and combine their power with the 3 Egyptian god cards. Dueling was crucial because the ancient sources had established clear rules. To obtain the millennium items power, one had to defeat their opponents in duels. Otherwise, the true power of each relic could never be unlocked. When Seto was 10 years old and his brother Mokuba was 5, they became orphans. With no close relatives to take care of them, they were sent to an orphanage, left there in hopes that someone would adopt them one day. Seto quickly became famous at the orphanage for being a genius, capable of defeating world chess champions. He was essentially a chess master, which made him stand out as someone unique in the world, likely with potential for other games as well. Because of this, the head of Kaiba Corp, Gozaburo, decided to visit the orphanage just to meet him. Surprised by Seto's talent, he chose to adopt both brothers, giving them the last name Kaiba. And so, Seto Kaiba was born, the CEO of the technology company that created all the cards and innovations for the Duel Monsters game. Using his intelligence, he took control of his adoptive father's company and eventually became the owner of everything. Meanwhile, the young Yugi wished for true friends who would never betray him. And because the Millennium Puzzle grants the wishes of its wielder, this dream slowly began to come true. His first true friend was Taya Gardner. Despite being best friends and studying together since early childhood, Yugi found himself friendzoned. He was in love with her. Yugi was notably shorter than most kids his age. Because of his small stature, he was shy and insecure, much like his past counterpart at first. However, over time, he would undergo a transformation, gaining confidence. His closest classmates were Joey Wheeler, Tristan Taylor. At first, Joey and Tristan would bully the short, spiky-haired boy, but the first time Yugi activated the Millennium Puzzle's power and transformed into Pharaoh with that school, against a group of bullies, who challenged them to a card game duel, where they gamble with their own hands. The Pharaoh cast illusions upon them. Right after that, Yugi defended Joey and Tristan. This moment changed everything. Joey and Tristan saw him differently and began to respect him as a friend. Seeing that Yugi had solved the Millennium Puzzle, his grandfather decided to show him a game based on the ancient Egyptian stone tablets. This is when Yugi fell in love with duel monsters. Meanwhile, Seto Kaiba kidnapped Yugi's grandfather and forced him into a duel. After winning, Kaiba stole and destroyed the 4th Blue Eyes White Dragon card, ensuring he alone possessed them. Now, to rescue his grandfather, Yugi, Joey, Tristan, and Taya Gardner set off to challenge Seto Kaiba to a duel. There, they joined hands and wished for a happy emoji to symbolize their eternal friendship and formalize their mutual protection pact. This was also meant to prevent the darkness from consuming them. Thus began the duel between Seto Kaiba and Yugi Moto. At first, Kaiba had a complete advantage over Yugi. Soon, Yugi had no more options. No more cards left in his deck. His final card had just been drawn, while Kaiba had already summoned and fused his 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. But Yugi's last card was the head of Exodia. This allowed all 5 pieces to unite, summoning the forbidden and almighty Exodia, which completely obliterated Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragons fusion and reduced his life points to 0.
Exodia! It's not possible!
Exodia! Obliterate!
After the duel, the Pharaoh cast a soul-crushing spell on Kaiba, shattering his spirit into pieces. As a result, Kaiba was forced to rebuild his entire personality from scratch. Here, we witness that, even without his memories, Pharaoh Adam is an overwhelmingly powerful force. He's a dueling monster, stronger than any modern-day player, and with the Millennium item in his possession, he was virtually unstoppable. After his victory, Yugi successfully rescued his grandfather and grew even closer to his friends. Because of Taya Gardner's interaction with the Pharaoh, she developed feelings for his confident, commanding presence. Now, she longed to meet the taller, more serious version of Yugi again. A few days later, Yugi was playing Duel Monsters against Joey. Then they tuned in to watch a match between Weevil, Underworld, Underwood and Rex Raptor, two elite duelists battling on TV. It was a part of a regional championship. At the moment, Pegasus appeared on screen to explain the upcoming tournament. To participate, duelists needed to collect their star chips and fill their duel gauntlets. The next day, Yugi received an official invitation to the tournament. Along with the invitation, he was given a duel gauntlet and 2 star chips to start. In addition, Pegasus sent a recorded video message, personally inviting Yugi. He was impressed with the short duelist skills and wanted to see them firsthand. But suddenly, through the monitor, Pegasus used the power of the malignant eye to initiate a remote duel with Yugi. As the duel unfolded, Pegasus began to lose. Realizing he needed to end it before it was too late, Pegasus fled. Before vanishing, he used the malignant eye to steal Yugi's grandfather's soul, kidnapping the old man once again. With no other choice, Yugi and his friends set off for the duelist kingdom. They were accompanied by Bakura, who was still in his calmer personality at the time. On their way to the island, they met Mai Valentine, a duelist specializing in a harpy deck. Later, they encountered Weevil Underwood, the infamous insect deck user. Weevil took Yugi's Exodio cards and threw them into the ocean. Knowing that Exodio was his strongest weapon, Yugi immediately jumped into the sea to retrieve them, but recovering them wasn't going to be easy. Using a simple yet effective strategy, Yugi summoned Skull Servant and defeated Weevil. As a result, Yugi took 2 of Weevil's star chips, bringing his total to 3. Since he had given one of his own to Joey so they could both enter the tournament, the next important duel was between Joey and Mai. During this match, Joey played Baby Dragon and Time Wizard, betting everything on his combination play. At the time, Mai had multiple harpy monsters on the field. Joey's strategy depended on time. It could work for him or against him. Using Time Wizard, 1,000 years passed within the duel. Mai's harpy aged and became weak, while Baby Dragon evolved into Thousand Dragon, a powerful ancient beast. This allowed Joey to defeat Mai, owning one of her star chips. Through this duel, we saw Joey's natural talent as a strategist. He understood the mechanics of the game, using logic and clever card interactions to turn the tide in his favor. Yugi's next duel was against Mako Tsunamin, a duelist who strategically uses sea monsters to gain an advantage in favorable environments. As the pharaoh and the protagonist, Yugi can do whatever he wants, so he uses one of his monsters, the giant stone soldier, to destroy his own magic card, Mystical Moon. Then, he summons Curse of Dragon, burning all the sea monsters and winning the duel. Mokuba Kaiba, Seto Kaiba's younger brother, tries to face Yugi but loses quickly. Frustrated, he steals Yugi's star chips and runs away. Mokuba reveals that his brother Seto Kaiba never recovered after losing to Yugi, which almost led Kaiba Corp to bankruptcy. As a company stocks plummeted, Pegasus sees the opportunity to buy the corporation, making him the one who now dictates its future and the rules of the game. To restore investor confidence, Pegasus must defeat Yugi in a duel, and he is willing to use any means necessary to accomplish this. Mokuba is worried about his older brother, but Yugi promises to defeat Pegasus. Even the pharaoh is angered by the situation. The next duel is against a copy of Seto Kaiba using his original deck. Yugi cleverly uses the magic hats to deceive his opponents by hiding trap cards among them. Even without Exodia, Yugi manages to defeat Kaiba once again, reviving the Blue Eyes White Dragon and turning it against its original owner. Afterward, Mokuba Kaiba is captured and sealed inside a card. Yugi sends a threat to Pegasus, declaring that he will defeat him soon. And if you haven't noticed, with each episode, Yugi is becoming even more powerful and unstoppable. Seto Kaiba decides to abandon his deep sorrow, reorganizes his deck, and heads to the island. Meanwhile, Mai begins to develop feelings for Joey but doesn't understand them. So she manipulates Rex into dueling Joey. Talk about jealousy. Joey and Rex duel, wagering all their star chips. Once again, Joey wins by using the Time Wizard. However, Joey's strategy is becoming predictable, and if someone counters it, he could be in trouble. Mai loses all her star chips to a bounty hunter sent by Pegasus. Yugi challenges the hunter and uses the Sword of Revealing Light to prevent the enemy monsters from attacking. Then, Yugi fuses Gaia with Curse of Dragon and uses the Catapult Turtle to launch it at the opponent, reclaiming all of Mind Stone star chips and bringing her back into the tournament. For the first time, Mai experiences true companionship, and this moment touches her heart. Perhaps one day, she will genuinely open up to Joy. Then, Bakura appears, and his Millennium Ring points towards the castle at the center of the island. Believing that their fate awaits them there, the group decides to head in that direction. Seto Kaiba goes straight to Pegasus to present his new duel disc, but his new boss ridicules him. Furious, Kaiba storms off in search of an easy opponent to duel and vent his frustrations. He ends up facing Joey, who showcases his Red Eyes Black Dragon, the sworn rival of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. However, the duel ends with Joey losing. Joey continues dueling and often relies on the Time Wizard, a gift from Yugi that has helped him many times. His motivation for for participating in the tournament is to save his sister, who is in a critical condition at the hospital and in a desperate need for help. The next duel is against the Paradox brothers. Yugi and Joey defeat them with ease, securing enough star chips to advance to the next stage. Still determined to promote his duel disc, Kaiba challenges Yugi to another duel. Wasting no time, Kaiba quickly summons his legendary Blue Eyes White Dragon. However, Yugi counters with the multiply spell, using it on his Korobos to stall Kaiba's attack. Yugi always improvises and wins due to his vast experience and deep understanding of the game. Additionally, Yugi fuses one of these monsters with his opponents, using the Mammoth Graveyard to weaken Kaiba's ultimate dragon. With the duel almost decided, Kaiba threatens to jump off the platform if he loses. Fearing for Seto Kaiba's life, Yugi interferes and intentionally loses the duel. Kaiba takes all the star chips and heads straight to Pegasus. Mai, who has been collecting star chips, lends some to Yugi, allowing him to qualify for the final showdown against Pegasus. Upon entering the castle, they witness the start of the duel. Mokuba Kaiba is imprisoned inside a card, being used as a hostage. During the duel, Pegasus activates the Toon World, transforming the Blue Eyes White Dragon into a cartoon version of his book. After taking an L, Kaiba is also sealed inside a card, just like his younger brother. The semi-finals begin. Yugi must face Mai, and despite not wanting to defeat his friend, he wins, carrying the weight of that decision on his consciousness. In the second match, Joey faces Bandit Keith. Joey wins using his Red Eyes Black Dragon and Grave Robber. After losing, Keith tries to flee, but Pegasus catches him and, using the Millennium Eye, forces him to take his own life. Now, it's time for the ultimate showdown. Yugi versus Pegasus. Pegasus has a massive advantage. He can see all of Yugi's cards and even read his thoughts. With his Millennium item, Pegasus holds a strategic upper hand over Yugi. However, despite this overwhelming disadvantage, Yugi remains confident that he can win. Pegasus' strategy is to summon Toon World and use its power as an impenetrable defense. Since Yugi and Pharaoh Adam have two distinct personalities, they devise a plan. By constantly switching places, they prevent Pegasus from reading their thoughts, keeping him unaware of their next move. After losing his only advantage, Pegasus panics and sends everyone into the Shadow Realm to finish the duel there. Once in the Realm of Shadows, he summons the Thousand Eyes Ristra, a monster with 0 attack and 0 defense. This card allows Pegasus to steal his opponent's monsters, and if it is attacked, the attacker loses life points instead, making it impossible for him to take direct damage. Yugi's strategy is to multiply his Korobos, weakening Pegasus' monster until it becomes vulnerable to attacks. His plan works, and he successfully defeats Pegasus, freeing everyone who was in prison. This moment proves once again that Yugi's the master of improvisation. Unlike his strongest opponents, who rely on a single overpowered card or strategy, Yugi always fights with an unmatched skill and adaptability. After the battle, Bakura, consumed by Zork's power, steals Pegasus' Millennium Eye and vanishes. Meanwhile, Joey uses his prize money to pay for his sister's surgery, and Yugi becomes the Pharaoh Adam's closest friend within his own mind. A few months later, a new exhibition of ancient Egyptian artifacts takes place, drawing Yugi's attention. Ishizu Ishtar, Marik's younger sister, appears on TV showcasing the exhibition. She possesses the Millennium Necklace, which grants its wielder the ability to see through time. Seto Kaiba also visits the event to examine the artifacts firsthand. The main attraction is a stone tablet depicting the ancient history of the pharaohs, including Adam's sacrifice and the succession of Seto's past lives. Ishizu hands Kaiba the Obelisk the Tormented card. Meanwhile, the spirit of Adam inside of Yugi continues searching for a way to recover his lost memories. Seto Kaiba begins developing a new dueling technology, and Yugi, along with his friends, visit the Egyptian exhibition. With Kaiba's new duel disc, dueling becomes possible anywhere in the city, leading him to organize a massive tournament involving every duelist around. The entire city turns into a battleground for duel monsters. A rogue hunter steals Joey's Red Eyes Black Dragon using Exodia. Yugi quickly challenges him to recover the stolen card. Understanding his opponent's strategy, Yugi destroys Exodia's parts before they can be assembled, securing the victory. However, after the duel, the defeated duelist is possessed by the power of the Millennium Rod, revealing himself as Marik, Yugi's new enemy. Many duelists struggle with the tournament's new summoning rules, which now require sacrifices to summon monsters of 4 stars or higher. Joey faces a tough battle against Esper Roba, who summons the mighty Jinzo, a monster that negates all trap cards. Despite the challenge, Joey emerges victorious. Meanwhile, Seto Kaiba continues crushing every opponent in his path with his newly obtained Egyptian god card. Before facing Kaiba, Yugi duels a mysterious opponent named Pandora, who uses illegal tricks to gain an advantage. However, Yugi's Dark Magician prevails, gaining additional power for each monster in the graveyard. During the duel, Yugi learns that Pandora is merely a puppet of Marik. At the same time, Joey faces Weevil Underwood, who has greatly strengthened his insect deck. Even with Weevil's new strategies, Joey outmaneuvers him and wins. The next insane battle pits Yugi against another of Marik's puppets, a rare hunter wielding the Egyptian god card Slifer the Sky Dragon. The hunter uses a slime-based strategy, sacrificing his monsters to summon the card. Yugi counters with the magical cylinder trap, reflecting Slifer's attack back at his opponent. However, Slifer's special ability nullifies the effect, sending the attack right back at Yugi. On the brink of defeat, Yugi draws the mind control card and uses to resurrect the slime monster, which regenerates. This forces his opponent to keep drawing cards until his deck is depleted, leading to his loss by deck out. With this victory, Yugi wins Slifer the Sky Dragon card. As Seto, Kaiba, and Yugi battle through the city, Bakura encounters Marik, and they form an alliance, combining their Millennium items. Joey then duels Mako Tsunami in a water-based battlefield that gives Mako the advantage. However, despite the odds, Joey secures another victory. One of the most crucial duels is Yugi vs Bakura. Bakura activates the Destiny board, which spells out the word death over multiple turns. Once the final letter is placed, he wins automatically. Yugi must race against time to defeat Bakura before the board is completed. As the letters form, Yugi summons Slifer the Sky Dragon, ultimately defeating Bakura. After Bakura's loss, Marik steals his Millennium item. Meanwhile, Joey faces another of Marik's puppets, a duelist heavily relying on trap cards. However, his strategy is predictable, and Joey easily counters it by summoning Jinzo, nullifying all traps. During this duel, Marik's puppet fails to summon the Winged Dragon of Ra and suffers a humiliating defeat. It becomes clear that only those who are reincarnation of ancient pharaohs can fully control the Egyptian god cards. Mai attempts to duel Marik, but loses and is captured. The next match is Ishizu vs Seto Kaiba. During this duel, Kaiba unconsciously taps into the power of the Millennium Rod, allowing him to claim victory. He then takes the Winged Dragon of Ra to study and uncover his secrets. While Kaiba examines the card, Bakura challenges Marik to another duel. This time, Marik emerges victorious. Now, only one battle remains to settle everything. Joey versus Marik Ishtar. Joey performs exceptionally well, using his new strategies to gain the upper hand. However, when the Winged Dragon of Ra is finally summoned, Joey is utterly defeated. With Joey out of the way, only two duelists remain, Seto Kaiba and Yugi. They must now face off to determine who will fight the final battle and decide the fate of the world. Yugi summons Slifer, while Kaiba calls forth Obelisk, and the sheer power of the two Egyptian gods shatters the boundaries of the holograms, affecting the real world. The clash of these divine beings causes a cataclysm force so intense that both deities are annihilated. With no other options, Kaiba is once again forced to rely on his iconic Blue Eyes White Dragon. Not only does he overpower Kaiba's monster, but he also disrupts the fusion of the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, undoing its transformation. For yet another time, Seto Kaiba is defeated.
As per the rules, take my rarest card.
Obelisk the Tormentor!
With the final battle set, Yugi and Marik engage in a duel where they wager their very lives. The duel begins with Yugi summoning Slifer, while Marik calls forth the Winged Dragon of Ra. Using underhanded tricks, Marik shows his life points as Yugi summons Obelisk, bringing all three Egyptian god cards onto the battlefield. At that moment, Marik wages an internal war against his evil alter ego. He ultimately overcomes his dark side, regains control of his body, and surrenders the duel, handing the Winged Dragon of Ra over to Yugi. In addition, Marik offers the sacred tattoo passed down through generations in his family, meant to preserve the pharaoh's legacy, so that Adam can reclaim his lost memories. For the first time, Adam is left uncertain about its true meaning. Along with the tattoo, he receives the Millennium Necklace, the Millennium Ring, and the Millennium Rod. Days later, Bakura approaches Yugi and presents him with the Millennium Eye, explaining he must gather all 7 Millennium items to unlock the gateway to the afterlife. The last 2 relics were safeguarded by Shadi, who sends them to Yugi. Once all the Millennium items are gathered, Adam's spirit leaves Yugi's body and enters the sacred tablet. Adam embarks on a journey through his own past, unlocking the secrets of his memories. However, the spirit of Zork, which had been residing within Bakura, also enters the tablet, crossing over into the ancient world. Now trapped in the past, Adam once again confronts Bakura, who has been overtaken by Zork. They engage in a duel that mirrors their original battle, except this time, instead of ordinary carvings on a stone tablet, they summon the true, living versions of their monsters. Yugi and his friends, aided by Shadi, travel back in time and witness the pharaoh's memories firsthand. They observe history unfold as it originally did, seeing actual creatures being summoned from the tablets. During this error, Akhenaten places the Millennium items onto the Forbidden Summoning Tablet, triggering a series of fated events. At this moment, Mana is exposed to the energy surge and transforms into Dark Magician Girl, just as it happened before. As history repeats itself, Akhenaten releases Zork's power, petrifying those around him. In exchange for this destruction, he demands that Zork make his son, Seto, the new pharaoh, once again leading to his possession. Kisara sacrifices herself to protect Seto, and Adam witnesses the legendary Exodia being defeated for the first time. Upon recalling his true name, the pharaoh unleashes his full power. He summons all three Egyptian gods, Slifer, Obelisk, and Ra, not just to wield their strength, but to fuse them into a single ultimate being, Harakthi, the creator of light, the divine entity, the first being of all creation, obliterates Zork with a single annihilating attack. With Zork vanquished, Yugi and his friends are transported back to the present. However, the time has come for Adam to leave this world and finally rest in the afterlife. Before departing, Adam must face one final challenge. He duels Yugi, using only ordinary cards and insanely well-planned strategies. The young Yugi defeats Adam and his Egyptian gods. With the duel concluded, Adam bids farewell to his friends and steps into the afterlife. The chamber collapses, and the Millennium items are lost forever, bringing an end to the pharaoh's legacy.